really pleased to see you here for our second session, which is Adventures in Advertainment. I'd like to introduce your moderator, Ben Whitehair. Ben is an actor and executive vice president of SAG-AFTRA. He also works in tech and has done so since he was a teenager in Denver, near Denver, and sold his championship sheep to buy parts for a computer. True story. See him after the panel. He'll tell you more about it. Without further ado, Ben Whitehair, please come on up. Enjoy Adventures in Advertainment.
Hi, thank you, everybody. Yes, that is a true story. So if you want to talk about how to show a sheep or ride bulls, we can talk about that. But today, we have something I think much more interesting. And I very much appreciate you all joining us for Adventures in Advertainment. Advertainment is a type of partnership that has been an integral part of motion pictures and television for almost a century. You can think of it as the basic product placement in movies and television shows that you all, I'm sure, are familiar with. And as film and TV programming has evolved to become a little bit more sophisticated and engaging, so too has Advertainment. Brands now enlist top-tier talent to do more than showcase their products, but also tell a compelling story that connects directly with an audience to form a connection and leave a lasting impression. So, what does this mean to actors and creative artists? That is the important question we'll be looking at today. This hybrid style of storytelling has become an innovative art form that allows brands to think outside the box, allow entertainers and directors to create unique pieces of content, and it's exposing unexplored opportunities and entertainment mediums with the potential to reach audiences in a more intimate setting. Today, we're going to look at how technology and some of the creative pioneers wielding these powerful new tools are taking advertainment storytelling to new heights, and in the process, forming new types of relationships between brands, audiences, and creative artists. So let's dive right in. I'd like to introduce our panelists. First up, we have Sam Asghari. Sam Asghari is an Iranian-born actor with an impressive resume that includes parts in the Emmy-nominated Showtime series Black Monday and the Emmy-winning HBO Max series Hacks. In addition, Sam's career continues to soar, with recurring roles in Taylor Sheridan's hit TV shows Yellowstone and Lioness. Sam, welcome. Come on up. Next up, we have Paul Feig, who is an Emmy-nominated filmmaker, writer, producer, author, and founder of Feigco Entertainment. Paul's a creative powerhouse behind some of entertainment's biggest comedy blockbusters you might have heard of, such as Bridesmaids and The Heat, films which have grossed over $1 billion, that's with a B, at the box office. His most recent project, The School for Good and Evil, starring Charlize Theron and Kerry Washington, debuted as the #1 film on Netflix in 88 countries worldwide. Paul, welcome. Next up, we have Laura Fischer, who is co-president of Feigco Entertainment alongside Paul Feig, overseeing the company's features slate, including the recently produced The School for Good and Evil for Netflix. She is also the CEO of Powderkeg, Feig's voice-driven content company that champions new voices with a commitment to female and LGBTQ creators and filmmakers of colors. Wonderful, wonderful. Laura, thank you for being here. Come on up. And last, but certainly not least, we have Sue-Ann Morrow, who is the National Director of Contracts, Strategic Initiatives, and Podcasts at SAG-AFTRA. In this role, she is responsible for spearheading initiatives, addressing challenges, and engaging with opportunities that arise from developments and shifts in the entertainment and advertising industries, particularly those driven by new technologies and platforms. Let's give a warm welcome to Sue-Ann and all of our panel. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Hi, everybody. Hello. It's so nice to be here in person. Hi. Thank you so much for being here. Sue-Ann, I'm going to start with you. I am curious, for context, what exactly is meant by advertainment? Some recent examples of it. What ways is the union seeing this type of work to create more opportunities for both advertisers and performers?
So you sort of introed a bit of that already, Ben. Advertainment has been around forever. Advertising and entertainment, recorded entertainment have been in partnership since almost the advent of recorded entertainment. The first Academy Award winning film had product placement in it. Hershey's candies were prominently featured in that film. And in those days, performers who were in the films also promoted the products outside of their work in front of the camera, and that was a kind of early influencer content. And then there were advertisers who sponsored entire programs, the Colgate Comedy Hour, things like that. And as that fell out of favor, more and more we saw the kinds of things that we think of as traditional commercials and advertising, 30-second, 60-second spots. And these were standalone programming that were meant to tell a story, the story of the brand. And that was sort of the beat that we were all on for a couple of decades. And then technology, as usual, disrupted things. And now there's the possibility of people shifting away, particularly in linear television, from standard advertisements. And there are digital distribution platforms that don't necessarily require advertisements to get to their viewers. So there's been a need for a more kind of creative advertising, and advertisers have had to find other ways to provide content that consumers actually want to view in order to get their brands and their brand messages into consumers' consciousness. And that's the sort of programming that we're talking about today. To me, that's what Advertainment is. It's heavy on the entertainment. It's subtle and seamless in its incorporation of brands and brand messaging. And it's content that people actually want to watch, that they don't want to fast forward through. So there's more and more of this going on out there. And for performers, this is actually a great boon because it's a whole new kind of area of content that they can work in, and this content is usually longer form than standard advertisements, so it requires more shoot days, and there's more characters in this work as well, so there can be more actual jobs employing performers in this kind of content. And it's not really a replacement for the standard 30 and 60-second commercials that we've all become accustomed to. It's an add-on. It's a boon to the industry, I think, in every way, and it gives advertisers the chance to spend quality time, long quality time with consumers in a way that makes consumers want to see their products and want to see that content rather than trying to get away from it.
Thank you. I love that. I think one of the reasons why SAG-AFTRA has had a presence at CES for 2 decades is that we're always looking at the future of technology and where it's going. And Paul and Laura, I'm curious, as we talk about expanding the type of stories that are being told, I'm curious to hear more about what inspired you to develop Powderkeg as a place to elevate women, the LGBTQ community, BIPOC filmmakers. For you, why was it important to do that? And in what ways do you see technology helping tell these stories that have historically not been represented?
I mean, it was important to us just because there's the opportunities were so few. And we, for years, have been like, people want to be mentored. And it's like mentoring is fine, but mentoring does not create any opportunity. And so when Laura and I talked, it really started as a possible website. Yeah. And then we realized, no, we need to give opportunity. And so this allowed us to create opportunity for new filmmakers.
Yeah, we're very much about doing. And so we want to be able to show people's actual ability to direct, ability to write, ability to act, and be able to launch that. Technology's been a huge supporter because it is disruptive and there is new opportunity for that. We always bring a premium level of quality to our work, which is what makes brands feel safe in taking a bet on somebody new and younger. And we as producers are in charge of making sure it sort of meets the goals and the expectations, but we've never had a problem. We've had such an incredible experience with those new young voices and with those diverse points of view. We've had great sets, we've had great products, we've met people like Sam, we've launched interactive content that, with filmmakers that probably wouldn't have had their first shot otherwise,
Yeah, we get to create a calling card too, because it's hard for me to advocate for somebody who mentors with me because they seem smart, but they couldn't do it. This, we create the opportunity and go either they prove it, or if they don't, then we go okay, you had your shot. But it's all about giving people that shot to prove themselves, and across the board.
And selfishly, we have a great pool of talent creators that we work with now, that we staff on the projects that we have next and that are working in Paul and I's next movies and that we found first. And it's just an incredible ecosystem that we've been able to build in large part because of sponsors like Verizon, like Google, like people who have come on board and supported our early work.
I love that. Yeah, and getting tapped into the historically untapped talent pool that is there looking for those opportunities. Yeah. Exactly. Talk to us a little bit about Mr. Right and talking about, like you say, the doing, like it's great in theory, like you have a very practical example of what we're talking about. So I'm curious to hear a little bit more about its inception.
Yeah.
Where did this idea come from? When did you start incorporating AR? How did Verizon get involved? Like, this is a very tangible example of this. So I'm curious to hear more.
Yeah, so Mr. Right was actually an idea that Diana Snyder, who's the writer, director, creator of this interactive experience, had brought to us. We had it at Echo. We had a 3-slate program at Echo. When the pandemic hit, Echo kind of changed their priorities and weren't able to make that series, but we loved it. We loved her, and we thought there was a real promise in it. So I had worked with Aaron McPherson at Yahoo, who's now running Verizon. Paul and I had worked together there. My roots are in digital, and so I love an interactive and a groundbreaking sort of opportunity. They had some brand money to showcase 5G, and we thought, well, what's better than, okay, how do you showcase 5G? You have to be out of your house, first of all, okay? Like if you're on Wi-Fi, it's not working. And my kids are really obsessed with Pokemon Go, and they had me chasing every bridge and library in Glendale to try to figure out like how to capture these little beasts. And I was like, ooh, this is kind of fun. Like, what if an app was sort of interactive for like I pitched it as like Pokemon Go for women who were interested in dating apps. Selfish. Put my spin on it. I got to catch them all. Hey, Kevin, how are you? Good to see you. And so we had a little bit of fun with it, basically. We took her idea, which was, could you make the perfect guy if you had the opportunity? That was the idea of Mr. Right and an interactive storytelling platform. And we put it out in the world. And so you're on the go playing this app, making choices for a main character who is trying to put a personality into the most gorgeous, beautiful robot. And what you do determines his personality. And will you really be happy with your result? And will you replay it? There's 25 different options for the ending. So we wanted to just sort of have fun with it and showcase the product. But I have to say, Verizon's been so creatively supportive. And the branding, to your point, was very light. It was very supported by the network. It was very supported by the actual thing they wanted to sell. And it didn't force anything else but entertainment in the viewer's eyes.
Yeah, because what I find jarring is product placement now, and we deal with it in our movies all the time. It's just something about, and a star picks up a thing and holds the label forward. It's just, it knocks you out of the film. And what I really like about this is it's just so, like Laura said, it's all part and parcel.
Yeah, I mean, we're very much in the attention economy, and how do you actually engage with people in a different way? I love the idea of the original influencers back in the day, before these different technological mediums to do that. Sam, I'm curious for you as a performer. Like, of course, how did you hear about this project? But I'm curious, especially, how is it different? You're even just the mechanism of 25 different endings, and I'm curious how that was for you, and what your favorite elements of working on the project were.
So I heard about this project. This guy calls me and says, "It's either you do it or we're gonna come kick your butt." So
I think you made the right decision.
So I was like, okay, I don't want to mess with these guys. So I end up doing. No, I'm kidding. You know what? The project was super interesting. We talk about how it was interactive, how it was like Pokemon Go. But as an actor, I got to experience some sort of a workshop as we were shooting this thing as 7 different characters. So that was the coolest part about it. And that's what I really took out of it, was that, I was able to play 7 different dudes with different personalities as a robot. And as a perfect man, which is basically, I'm not the most perfect guy in the world, but I'm playing a perfect man. So it was really interesting, but the fact that I think Verizon, this was the first romantic comedy that was also interactive.
Yeah.
And that was also very interesting part about it. But, I'm a big video game guy, and I love to get involved into things. And it's really cool I played this thing like 4 or 5 times. I'd like to put myself on certain places.
Which endings did you get?
Okay. You make bad decisions for yourself.
I keep getting the same endings. I don't know what I'm
good
doing
ending?
something wrong.
The good
You're
guy?
Mr. Right, that's why.
That's the problem. No, you're
Not
Mr.
Mr. Wrong.
No.
I love that. Well, and it's such an example, Sue-Ann, like you said, of these are additional opportunities, right? What a wonderfully unique opportunity as a performer, both in the creative element of it, as a different type of thing to be pursued. And I'm curious, Sue-Ann, from your perspective, we've been talking a lot already today about how we can focus on this human element, and what are some of the ways that SAG-AFTRA and other labor unions can protect people's rights as we expand into different types of technology, different types of work. And do you see advertising gigs for members further incorporating storytelling in these unique ways as we move forward?
I think so. Yeah, I think there's going to be more and more of that kind of content because with digital advertising, you don't have the restraints that you have with linear television advertising. You aren't limited to 30 or 60 seconds. You can make incredibly long form stuff. You can do really short form stuff. You can do things on apps. There's a million different ways, things that we haven't even thought about yet. To get to consumers. But what you really want to be able to do is to compel them to want to see the content. And I think that's what's going to happen more and more. I can't imagine that there won't be more compelling storytelling accompanying the branded partnerships that we're seeing out there. And you know, what's interesting for us as a union in covering this work is that it's going to be difficult sometimes to tell whether this is entertainment content that's just really artfully and lightly branded, or is it branded content? Is it a commercial that just has a really great storytelling element to it? And that's something that we're becoming more and more adept at doing. We're better and better at taking a project that's brought to us and looking at it and turning it around and talking to multiple departments and trying to figure out, you know, what's the best way to cover this particular project, both for the performers involved, but also for the employers who are trying to employ performers.
And we really appreciate the union working with us. I mean, because it's, you know, I was an actor for many, many years, and all you look for as an actor is opportunities.
Yeah.
And these opportunities, it's multiplying.
Yeah.
But we appreciate that it'd be so easy for you to to say, no, you can't do that because this crosses these two lines. So I really appreciate how you're always working with us to figure out what's the new model.
Yeah, we've become really fast and nimble and a union of yes. I say that our answer is always yes first, and then we figure out how to do it after that. But it's an exciting time for sure.
Well, I think that's really important because as, you know, to me, one of the things that I love about CES and being here is seeing, you know, all the ways that technology can empower us to tell stories in different ways, and the mediums and all of that changes, and I'm struck by that balance between how do we make sure that people are protected and being able to take advantage of these opportunities, because, you know, this is a perfect example of like what an amazing opportunity and a fun way to engage with audiences, and it's a win-win for the companies and the brands and the performers and the producers. Paul and Laura, I'm curious, you know, you work on all kinds of different types of projects, from big blockbuster hits to, you know, this type of thing. Where do you see all of this headed? Is something going to supplant something else? Is it just more?
I think it's just growing the whole garden, basically, because, you know, look, I mean, there's a place for everything. You know, movies are great and TV shows are great because you go like, I just want to sit down and have somebody else in charge. But what I like about this is you go into it very specifically knowing I'm going to be in control. If like you went to a movie and you didn't know you were going to have to pick the next scene, I think you'd be like, wait, what? I got to work? You know, but this is nice because it's like you get to interact and have that fun, but you go into it with a different mindset. And so I just think all this does is expand all the opportunities for storytellers, for creators, for actors. And that's all we want. I mean, we just, you know, gone are the days of there was only 3 TV networks and you only get so many shows. I mean, streaming all this and now putting this on top of it, it's a really exciting time if you're a creator at all.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think that the creators are so innovative that they're pushing the technology and the technology's pushing them. And it's been really cool to see, like, we shot our first entirely vertical show for Snapchat that was scripted. And to see a filmmaker take that and make it like really cool is something that I think will translate into film eventually. And I think that the audiences are so savvy these days. We're all a savvy audience. When you think about what you do and don't want to watch, you have to be innovating. And I think the next generation of filmmakers really get that. And it's starting in digital, and it's starting with tech, and it's starting with these kind of inventive opportunities. But it's going to be everywhere, everything all at once. You know, like next, like it's the Daniels, it's whoever's next is coming up through these mediums. And I think it's really exciting.
It is, and it's really on. I mean, it's exciting for anybody out here who's a creator, anything. We rely on those ideas coming to us because there's nothing more fun than like find a new technology. But half the time we're like, what do we do with it? You know, and so like with this one, it's just like, oh, that's a great idea to take it and not make it just a pick your own adventure, but to make it like a romantic comedy was really appealing to us, and it's new, and so I mean, the sky's the limit. So anybody out there. Keep coming up with new ideas.
Verizon really felt like Chris, who is at Verizon, I'm not sure if she's listening to the panel, but she and I were on the new media board for the Emmys for a long time, and you review all the interactive submissions and all those things. And we had really bonded over how cool the Oxygen app was when it used AR for the first time like 10 years ago. And you could sort of like see a crime scene in your room. And it was just like she had worked on it. And I was like, oh, I love that app. But like, why hasn't that been used for comedy? There's no reason that AR hasn't been used for comedy. And I think everybody connected with that opportunity. It doesn't have to be so dramatic and serious. You can put a picture of Mr. Right anywhere you want and send it around through our app, which is such a cool use for AR.
And we've spent a lot of time experimenting. I mean, when the Oculus came out, when we did Other Space for Yahoo Screen, we did a promo for it on an Oculus, which we wrote so that you would be in 360. But I only bring that up to say it's really fun to try to figure out how to use this new technology in ways that can showcase it. It doesn't always work, but you find what works and what doesn't, and then it can expand, and we kind of build off of that.
Yeah. Sam, I'm curious for you, did working on this project shift your view of technology or AR in any way? Like, what advice do you have for other storytellers, creatives, actors as, you know, this technology starts to take more hold?
Absolutely, man. I think as a human, not just an actor, you have to evolve. And I love the fact that SAG is doing that. I love the fact that big producers and big production companies are doing that. And as an actor, you only have to evolve. And the great thing about this is that everybody's becoming savvy. The audience are, you know, from a different generation. And they want to be involved into, you know, kind of continuing the story and being able to be involved in it. So I'm gonna guess in the next 10 or 15 years, we're gonna see everything being interactive. And Paul kind of promised me a spinoff of Mr. Right.
Mr. Wrong?
Mr. Right, but an action star. Oh yeah. So
You heard it here first.
you know, he promised me that. So I'm
There we
gonna keep
go.
on to
See,
that promise.
exactly.
He's capable of it, so we'll see.
We're very excited about this new project that I just heard about.
Do we need to get a paper out so we can have to sign it right here?
No. But I want SAG to protect
Universal
me if
bought it.
Verizon starts making robots. You know,
That look like you.
so
The OG robot
Based
right
up
here.
Verizon
It's
robot.
exactly-
if you find me in the public doing something wrong, it's not me. It's an AR.
Perfect alibi.
Well, to that point, Sue-Ann, do you have any thoughts on how people can think about, you know, I love seeing the opportunity and the creativity here. How can performers, creatives, or even producers think about protecting their own likeness, their, you know, intellectual property? Like, what are some ways that we should be thinking about these things as technology emerges?
Well, I think that the biggest point I'd make is come to us at the front end. You know, whether you're a performer or an influencer or a producer, come to us at the front end and we'll figure out the best way for you to cover the work so that it doesn't feel like it's restrictive if you're the producer and it doesn't feel like it's not protective enough if you're the performer. But that's the first thing I always say is that there's always a way to cover the work and make sure that folks feel comfortable being in these spaces without making it unduly difficult for employers to hire professional performers and other folks that we cover with our contracts.
But that's
So-
such a great point. I mean, across the board, like when we were doing Freaks and Geeks, 20 plus years ago, we had to want to do a pot smoking segment, and we didn't know what we could do, so we went to the censors first and said, "What can we do? What can't we do?" We found out we could do more things than we thought we'd be able to do.
Right.
So it's always great to keep the people involved, and I find that in our business, a lot of creators tend to be like, "Oh, I don't want anybody messing with my vision." But it's like, bring people in because then you will get more ideas.
That's right. And things are constantly changing too. You know, what's available to you as a producer or as a performer is constantly changing internally at SAG-AFTRA and just in the world of entertainment. And I think collaborations are going to be, I think collaboration in the industry right now is just enormous and it's just going to continue to grow. And I could imagine a world where there will be more influencers who are brought into more scripted content entertainment that is created around them. And it will be in addition to the content that they're making themselves that we're more used to influencers doing because they already have that ready-made audience that wants to see them in more content. So those folks that have the ability to do scripted entertainment as well, I could see that happening as well.
Yeah. Well, I love it. I think, you know, entertainment provides a really good example of, you know, for many, many decades, everybody working together, right? Producers, companies, brands, performers, like, hey, let's all have a seat at the table. We can find ways to have a win-win. And that when we work together, it's great for everybody. And I love that this project is such a perfect example of that.
Well, when you work together, you find a way to not make it gross. Not like one person, like, you got to have all this stuff. It's like when you direct a commercial, obviously everybody just cares about the product. But this is so nice. It's from the ground up. We produced a show called East of La Brea, and we worked with Lyft for that.
Yeah.
And they put money into it, and all we really had to do was kind of have one of the characters was a Lyft driver.
Yeah, she was already a driver.
Yeah.
We just put a lift thing in.
Yeah, and it wasn't like in your face and all that, but it was there.
Paid
and-
for the series.
Totally.
Yeah. In addition to the upcoming action series, Mr. Wright, that is
Yes,
premiering at
exactly.
CES
It'll be
next
very
week.
exciting.
Everybody's very excited. It's all the buzz. What projects do you all have up your sleeves? Where do you see the next step as you guys continue to expand the types of technology and filmmakers you're working with? Where is it headed for you all?
Yeah, we have our program called Powderkeg Fuse, where we produce 6 short films from up-and-coming female directors every year. It's previously been funded by Google. We have a short film that just got into Sundance, and we're so excited to exhibit that in a couple of weeks. We're hoping to do more in this branded and interactive space. I think it's really exciting. I hope to do another AR project. Obviously, Mr. Wright, action star, and on our film side, we're off to Atlanta for our next movie, starring somebody we found through Powderkeg, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we haven't announced it yet, so we can't say what it is, but you'll know soon.
Okay, great. We're going to open it up for Q&A in just a minute. Before we go to that, Suann, I'm curious. You mentioned kind of where Advertainment started a long time ago. We see a great example of where we are now. Where is it headed? Where do you think? I mean, you've touched on it a little bit, but I'm curious where you think.
Well,
this is all going.
I think we don't know what we don't know yet. I think there's going to be lots of developments in the next 5 years, not even decade. There'll be things that we never expected to see. So it's hard to know where things are actually going to go. But I do think there is going to be more. There was kind of the promise of more serialized content that would be branded a few years back. I think we're going to see a resurgence of that potentially. More short form stuff where you'll be tuning in to see it more than once to see what happens in the second and third and fourth episodes of this branded series. But I'm also obsessed with, because of podcasts, I'm also obsessed with the audio only world. And I think we're going to see a lot of branded content in that world that's interactive and super interesting. The explosion of scripted dramatic podcasts has been really interesting to me and surprising. I didn't think that it would be the enormous success that it's been, and it's growing every day. And I can see that being a part of the story over there too, that there'll be more interactivity and more advertainment sort of in that world, in the
Yeah.
audio only world.
You can just walk around the show floors here every year and see all the different ways that audio only is making its way into
Yeah.
your kitchen.
The
your living
resurgence of
room.
audio is really awesome and interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because there's so many things we have to double task at. I mean, your car is the new theater stage, really. That's exciting. I mean, I think it's also just all this technology is going to keep evolving so fast, and what's going to happen is creators are going to figure out the best way to tame it with the right genres. It's all so specific. Like there's nothing that kind of just works across the board.
Yeah.
And that's what I find exciting. You're like, figure out what's going to be the best way to do horror, what's going to be the best way to do comedy. And again, I'm always throwing it back onto the creators because that's, being one myself, but also that's what we would depend on in our company. Like, think out of the box, please, because you'll be the one who comes up with the next idea that then takes off and nobody expected.
I love that.
Yeah. I think the trend is that brands really do want to be continually associated with something that's premium and innovative and with top talent. I don't think that'll ever change. I just think the shape that's taking is constantly changing. It once was so cool to have a, vodka sponsored short film, and now we're getting to do cool like AR advancement. And I think the metaverse and VR is also probably very much on that premium horizon, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that.
And it's a great way to break amazing new talent. Not new, but
Amazing.
emerging,
Fresh.
exactly, on his way through the
Depending on
roof.
who's hiring, fresh and new.
Exactly, that's right, really.
I love it. But let's see audience questions. Let's start here. Paul.
Thank you. Quick question. With these long formats of Advertainment, do you see brands ready to come back for more and produce new seasons or other shows, or is it more like a one-off? They try because it's innovative, but then they're like, yeah, we're not too sure about the ROI, so we're just cautious.
I've seen a variety of it. I think it varies very, very brand specific. There are brands that have continually supported up and coming voices and new filmmakers and diverse filmmakers. And I hope that that never changes, because that is long overdue and should stay forever. But I also think there's been other brands that are, yes, like an initiative like 5G was new. I don't know that you need to keep going back to that promotion well in that same way. So I think we like to keep a canvas on all of the different companies, because there's so many different opportunities depending on who it is and what that tech company is looking for. But we also keep a stable of ideas, like Paul was saying, so that we can plug in to those initiatives as they come. I think that being able to see an idea in a new format is a really important skill as a producer. So we have 30 ideas that we could bring into any meeting and sort of reimagine it depending on what the tech is and what the ability is for that company.
And there's a lot of companies that don't realize they want to get into this. And so if you're really outgoing to go and take stuff to them, to develop stuff directly for them, might get doors slammed in your face, but you might find the few that actually haven't thought about it.
Yeah.
I think that's really exciting.
Yeah. Let's come here.
Thank you so much for everything that you all have talked about. This is mind-blowing for me. I do a lot of branded content in the cybersecurity and tech space. The only thing is we've been playing with product placement type stuff, but with software, it's very different than a physical product. Do you have any advice for how you would leverage something like that, like a software application or anything like that?
I think it's all about extrapolating the brand values for that software, whatever those 3 key words are, and then finding that value in a story. I mean, that's always my most direct line. It's not about the product. It's not even about how you showcase it. It's, can you make a compelling story with those same values and then connect that to the audience? The audience is so savvy these days, they'll get it. If you're talking about safety, you're talking about security, you're talking about reliability, there's stories to be told in that space that are really compelling and interesting, sponsored by, brought to you by, whatever, you know?
And then you're not hitting them over the head with the brand,
The action star, Mr. Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Security.
He's a security guy.
See what happened?
Right?
This was a brainstorm.
He's a
you-
software
brainstorm.
genius.
If you don't have Mr. Right to keep you safe, then you need this software.
Who's writing
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
down right now?
He's never wrong. That's
I'm
the
already
tagline.
writing this
Mr. Right.
Sam's
never
got it
wrong.
here
And then
for
I'll
me.
come to you.
Thank you very much indeed. My name is Armand. I'm creating digital humans. Quick question. Have you considered of creating a digital twin of Sam so that in the incoming season 2, he's not replacing Sam, but he's augmenting the content?
You were at the first panel, weren't you?
I was going to say, I like how you slid that in. I'm creating digital humans. Moving
Sam's
on.
like, what are my
Hang on.
rights?
Jokes aside, voice cloning Sam's voice, putting a natural language understanding behind that, and voice conversation engine, and letting this clone lead its own life in a parallel universe, supporting the content, supporting the brands. That's the question number 1. Have you thought about that? Second one,
Just blew my mind with that first question.
it's actually, this is what we do, by the way. The second one, have you ever thought of letting the product speak on its own behalf, like a human? It's a new way of product placement. This is also that can be done. Putting a voice AI engine behind that and writing the right script and making it human-like. Have you thought about that?
Wow.
Thank you.
How much money do you have? How do we do that?
And will that eventually murder all of us?
Well, I do think that's, we talked about this in the previous panel, and we were actually having a conversation about it for an upcoming SAG-AFTRA podcast episode, that line between where is it, as Nina said in the last panel, augmenting versus, automating, replacing, and how do we find those intersections? And I think that is really interesting, is like, where does the technology intersect? Where does it replace?
Well, I'm a fan of the storyteller deciding. And even when it's an interactive thing, there's still a brain behind it who's made these decisions, who's taken out 100 different bad decisions or ones that didn't work as well. So I guess I'm always, as a storyteller, I'm always going to be on the side of that, because I always worry about things just kind of running rampant.
In this specific experience, too, we did have a traditional rom-com setup. We took my best friend's wedding and said, you're fixated on this person. It's not actually the right person for you. The love of your life is right in front of you. And if you play the app, if you play Mr. Right, one of the best outcomes you can get is to realize that your best friend is actually who you're in love with, not the ex-boyfriend you're chasing or the robot that you've been spending all this time with. So there is a guiding hand to the narrative. There are all these divergent paths, and there's always ways that it could go wrong. There's foils, traditional story structure stuff. But
Millions of best friends just sent
Right.
this app to their friends.
exactly, that's what we were hoping for. But we do really believe that there's a burden of storytelling that should be on us, not on the audience. And we've watched a lot of interactive programming over the last couple of years and felt sometimes that burden was a little bit too heavy on the audience, and it can be kind of a bummer to play something where you feel like you really might kill that character that you didn't, and you don't want to feel responsible for that in an entertainment experience.
But in a different world, it would be very interesting to set something loose and see what it does. I have a love of, you've seen those, like when they do those bots and they let the bots write a script, like feed it a million
There's a
different
Hallmark bot.
movies.
Yeah,
and it's
that's
the
really
funniest
good.
thing I've ever read. And I actually want to shoot a movie that's based on a bot script, just because the choices are so hilariously weird. But you just go into that knowing that that's what you're going to get. So
Yeah.
I won't be playing those.
I'll do it. I'll take a job.
there we go. Yeah, come on, man.
I'll-
Come on.
like
Work
a-
is work.
Coming over here, yes.
Hi, I'm Trisha from Launch Encore 360. Paul and Laura, I have a question about when you pitch to brands, right? What's the makeup of your pitch? Is it storytelling, 50% storytelling and 50% attribution and ROI? Or are you able to sell them on the...
I would say mostly for us, it's creative. It's creative and understanding, again, their brand values and the big alignment. The ROI is something that I feel like is always set by the company, and we plug into that once we've bought in, or maybe even further into the negotiation. But the ROI is really controlled by the platform. We're not usually the platform. So I'm like, here's the great story we can tell you. Here's the great brands we can align with you. And here's all of the other stuff we bring to the table as producers. I think when you get just a little bit outside of entertainment, even into corporate, what a producer is very weird, and it's very black box, and it doesn't make a ton of sense. So we always really are clear about what our jobs are and what our responsibilities are and what the creative is we bring to the table. And hopefully then that gets us in business, and we talk about things like technicalities and ROIs and scope and all of that.
I think one of the things I'm hearing repeatedly from everybody is just that the creative and the storytelling is at the center of so much of this. And I think, you know, when we're surrounded by the newest technology on the planet, I think it's easy, as a tech nerd myself, to get seduced by that. And what I appreciate everybody saying is there still is a story, there's a creative element, there's the intersection. Like at some end of a screen, there is a real human being. And what is the experience that they are having, regardless of how much technology or AI is coming at them?
What's the key to storytelling? I mean, you know, if you come up with a story first and then plug characters into it, it's never as successful as coming up with characters first and then figuring what story will serve them the best. And I feel that's the same with this technology.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I love that. Did you have a thought, Suzanne, or no?
The only thing I was going to say, just in reference to your question, is that there are certainly circumstances where I think that a project like this could be augmented by AI technology, and on social media, Mr. Wright's voice could be used, and it could be his voice, and he could have an interactive relationship with people who reach out to him on social media, and all of that kind of stuff. And that's very much on our radar. And we've crafted contracts to cover that kind of work, and we are sort of aware of that digital double world, and that it's coming for performers, and that it is going to be a part of the story as we move forward.
Quite modest writers.
Sorry?
No pay rise, no pay rise, nothing. Digital twins, they require no pay rise. 6 days.
Next question. Let's go over here. Yeah.
Hello, and thank you guys.
Hi.
So I come from a little bit of a different background in live entertainment for esports. But one of the things that excites me so much about the innovation in SAG-AFTRA and everything you guys are doing for Advertainment? Advertainment, sorry. Is the idea that you could take a market and evolve the way that they do advertising in terms of live events and bring that story to it. So my question for you, and this is something of a little bit more advice for me since I am young, is when it comes to the inception of an idea, right? When you guys are coming up with an idea for a movie or a television show, is it good to have the interaction with the brands that you're looking to work with prior to development in terms of saying, hey, I'd like to incorporate some sort of story here about your product at this point? Or do you find that it's more of a collaborative thing where you go, here's my idea, here's how we want to work, and they say, well, let's make it a little more spicy?
I mean, I think it's always story first. So I think you got to get that right. And sometimes they'll come in with, and sometimes it won't be a bad idea, but is that they're going to have different pressures they want out of something. I think if you go in with a story that you know is set, and then you're willing to kind of let things come into it, like we did with The Lift,
Yeah.
in East of La Brea. But you want to be in charge of the story first and foremost, because that's really all anybody cares about at the end of the day. I mean, you can put all this special effects, all this cool stuff. People love close-ups. They love people's faces. They want to know, the emotion of it. So
Yeah.
I would build that first and then bring them in. But then I think it's smart to then bring them in.
Yeah. When I was at ABC, we had the opportunity to do something live for the Oscars, which had never been done on ABC.com. And it started from John Lasseter coming to my boss and saying, what if you could make people feel like they were on the red carpet at the Oscars? And for me, everything has always started with a question or a story. So now we're trying to sell somebody a story of being on the red carpet. Okay, well, that's suddenly 17 cameras, 5 different live vendors, AEG Lives involved. Okay, 360 camera, sure, that seems like it sells it. Let's put that at the end over here and see. So it's for me, that was not even a narrative, but it was a story that we started with. And how do we serve that?
Sam, I'm curious for you as a creative and a creator, like have both in terms of like Mr. Right and a unique kind of project, but in general, have you found that like technology or whether or not you're interacting with a brand, like has that impacted your work as a performer, or is it still kind of the same for you?
Absolutely, man. I think at the end of the day, there is the ABC, which is the basics, which technology is going to be able to change that. But at the same time, technology is something that makes things easier and harder at the same time. So we're here talking about all these amazing things technology brings, but also for some reason, sometimes it makes it a little bit more difficult. But at the same time, I only appreciate technology as a creator because you can put something together with your iPhone and you can make a short film and submit it to all these amazing festivals and win a bunch of awards. So that's a great part about it. Or you can watch Mr. Right by downloading Mr. Right on your phone vertically, 4K, and make your own choices and get your own results.
I love that.
Be inspired and be inspired.
Time for one more.
Hi, thank you so much. So my question's actually pretty connected to the question that you just heard. So when you build out the story and you have a good idea of the type of product that you want to integrate in, what is your process for deciding which specific brand or advertiser you want to reach out to partner with?
I just go where the money is. Yeah, exactly. But Ben's right. So we work with a number of different agents and agencies to at the top of the year say who's got brand dollars, honestly, because like I said, we develop a slate, so we always have a slate of projects that could be retrofitted or sort of customized, but we always start with where the money is because it's really, really an uphill battle, not worth your time to try to find somebody who's not willing to spend money.
Well, but our second Powderkeg fuse is a good example of actually the horse coming for the cart.
Yes, we built it and they came.
Yeah, because we knew they wanted us. They wanted something to do with it. Each thing could be about use Google Assist, right?
It was Google Voice. So I had a phone call from UTA, and they had a little bit of extra brand dollars from Google that year, and they had Issa Rae as a voice, and they thought, well, is there any way to use Google Voice or use Issa's voice in any sort of content? We were like, well, actually, we have this program. We've already done 5 of them. And they're incredible, and they made all these festivals. And they were like, oh, could you just integrate our product? And it was like, absolutely, yes. But again, it was like matching money with idea. So always come ready with ideas, but only go to the people that already have money and are ready to write the check.
The other takeaway that I would just add that I think has come up from each of you is just like the volume of ideas, right?
Yeah.
And whether that's of course from you all, but also the collective of people that you're working with, and that the more that you're creating. And I think that's what I've heard a lot of people say, some of the best uses of this technology is how can we use it as creatives to continue to engender more and more ideas and stories and characters, because the more of that, the more likely you are to find a good pairing.
Yeah. Storytelling ideas are always going to drive everything, because everybody can do, a lot of people can do technology. Not that many people are great storytellers. Yeah. And so that's always gonna. You will never go poor if you have great ideas.
Yeah, keep your half-baked ideas. You never know where they'll find their roots and their opportunity. We have a graveyard that I'm constantly shocked when something comes back around and is ready to be sold in a new way that I never would have imagined.
Yeah, ideas kind of come in and out of fashion. So,
Yeah.
you're right.
Any other final thoughts? Storytelling, ideas, creatives.
Be
humans.
creative. Be creative. Tell stories that people don't tell. Draw from your own personal experiences because what you've gone through is unique to you and nobody else. Always go from that, even if you want to tell it in a bigger way. Still, it's that personal story that happened to you, those characters those interactions, those relationships you have. That is what makes your idea unique. And then you can present it, if you want to do it as a big sci-fi epic, you can do it that way. If you want to do it as a tiny little romantic comedy, but that's what's going to make you stand apart from everybody else.
That's the
love that.
master class.
Well, thank you all so much for being here. Let's give a warm round of applause. Very much appreciated. Thank you, everybody.